And good morning. Welcome to News and Views. I'm Sean Thomas in studio today with good friend and co-host Ray Allen and our technical guru, Ken Garner. All bringing you news and views today. Ray, I'd like to start off today's show by touching on the election results. We spoke of the election last week, and it didn't go quite as well as what we hoped it would. It looks like we're going to pick up 3 seats in the Senate, which is crucial, especially for Trump getting his judges through, and a potential Supreme Court justice now that Ruth Bader Ginsburg is not doing too well. She'll fall, and I've heard rumors that possibly her cancer has come back, something I know something about.
Well, you sure do know about cancer, and you've had several bouts of it. However, in fact, she did fall literally and broke, 3 ribs.
Exactly.
So she has to recover from that, and we wish her well in her recovery. But she is destined to stay here until there's a new administration, and that administration being Democrat.
Yeah, she's 85 years old. She says she's not going to step down as long as Trump's in office. But when you're 85 years old, things happen that might possibly necessitate her stepping down, whether she likes it or not.
Well, we'll see what happens, Sean.
Something else I want to touch on today, upcoming shows. The theme on my segment is going to be nothing is as it seems. Take nothing for granted. Don't believe the media. Verify everything. Because we are being surrounded by lies and propaganda out there. And 2 examples of that you can think about today, before we actually get into this segment, is the Kavanaugh confirmation hearing, what the media did to him, and how they portrayed him, a good man who they just totally slimed. And fortunately, we were able to push him through, but that's an example of what the media and politicians can do to people. And another example I want to touch on is the Catholic Church and the pedophile priest problem. Another classic example, the PR about the churches, they do good, people send their kids there, and the whole time they're housing pedophiles who are preying on the very kids of the families they're sending. Now, not all of them, of course, but a lot of them. A lot more than we'd like to believe. So here people are sending their kids to the church, sending money to the church, and supplying their children to pedophile priests.
Well, Sean, I think most of that has been covered up for decades. I can recall hearing about it for decades. As I was very young, I grew up in the Catholic Church. I proclaimed to be a Catholic. However, there is no one on this planet is going to do what they are doing and have it covered up, with even now the Vatican trying to dismiss and say that the deacons and the bishops have no say over this. This is outrageous.
Oh, really? And once again, Ray, that's my point. This is how something can happen right in public, right before our very eyes, and go on for years and years and years, and we don't have a clue what's going on. And that's not only happening in religion, it's happening in politics, it's happening in entertainment. Sex trafficking is becoming more and more to the public's forefront as Trump goes after that. I give him credit for that, by the way. And Sessions was doing a good job on sex trafficking before he was dismissed by Trump. And another thing I want to touch on today, this will be on next week's show, kind of an upcoming view. I'm going to talk about the power behind the throne. Okay, first of all, we know these politicians. The quality of our politicians nowadays, obviously, as people who get older like myself know, is nowhere near as good as what it used to be. And I'm interested in the power and the money and the people behind the scenes. Who actually controls these people? Who runs these people? Who are they beholden to? And I think if we focus on that, and if we can make that determination, we'll find why they do what they do and why they say what they say. Basically, they're bought and paid for.
And a brief
money runs the system.
And a brief summary of the maybe 3 of the top people who you believe are controlling the Democrat Party, by the way, would be who, Sean?
Well, George Soros for sure. The environmentalist Tom Steyer out in California. Both these guys are putting millions and millions of dollars behind the Democratic Party. And by the way, they're doing it in the form of they're running their money out of tax-free foundations. They set up these foundations, they accumulate money tax-free, and they pass it on to their Democratic stooges around the country. It's just an absolutely horrible system. And the Rothschild family, I'm going to touch on them just for a second. We'll talk more about them next week. They're a European-based banking family. It's not even their real name, by the way. Rothschild it means Red Shield. Red in German. Red Shield was what used to be over their banking houses in Europe. Their family name is Bauer. Bauer. But they're the Rothschilds. They're far and away the richest family in the world. I've heard, now I don't know how true this is, I've heard they control anywhere from 1/3 to 1/2 of the wealth in the world, which is just absolutely, and you'll never find one of them on the most wealthy person listed. Once again, a classic example of flying beneath the radar and doing what they do without public scrutiny. One thing you need to know about them, for example, the Federal Reserve, the people that control our money supply in this country. Okay, this is how they operate. Federal Reserve. It's not federal, it's not owned by the government, and they have no reserves. Classic example of liberals and power brokers using false terms to describe themselves. The Rothschilds own 52% of the interest in the United States Federal Reserve. It's owned by banking families, primarily in Europe, but Rockefellers and a couple of others are involved in the ownership in this country.
And of course, everyone who goes to investigate the Federal Reserve normally retires one way or another.
Well, exactly. And now, a classic principle of banking, of course, you have audits. The Federal Reserve has never been audited one single time since it came into existence in 1917. Never been audited.